Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Mark Lynn. Namaskar. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. The EU slaps Russia with its 18th wave of sanctions. Tightens oil price cap. Moscow warns of backlash. US lists the Resistance Front as a global terrorist outfit. Jaishankar calls it a strong affirmation of India-US counter-terrorism cooperation. India's first indigenously designed and built diving support vessel INS Nistar commissioned into the Indian Navy. Good trouble lives on protests erupt across several US cities against Trump's policies on mass deportations and social welfare cuts. The United States' Department of State has designated the Resistance Front, or the TRF, as a foreign terrorist organization and as a specially designated global terrorist. The Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, has also termed it as an offshoot of the banned terror outfit, the Lashkar-e-Taiba. India has welcomed this move, calling it timely and important.
India has welcomed the decision of the United States Department of State to designate the Resistance Front, or the TRF, as a foreign terrorist organization and as a specially designated global terrorist. External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar hailed the move in a post on social media platform X. In a statement, Ministry of External Affairs also said the designation of TRF is a timely and important step reflecting the deep cooperation between India and the United States on counter-terrorism. The MEA further said that India will continue to work closely with its international partners to ensure that terrorist organizations and their proxies are held accountable. The US government designated the Resistance Front, an offshoot of the Pakistani extremist group Lashkar-e-Taiba, as a foreign terrorist organization over the dastardly terror attack on April 22nd in Pahalgam in Kashmir that killed 26 innocent people. Secretary of State Marco Rubio said in a statement that decision enforces President Donald Trump's call for justice for the Pahalgam attack. Rubio called TRF, which emerged in 2019, a front and proxy for Lashkar-e-Taiba. The TRF has been involved in numerous terror-related activities, including the heinous attack on civilians in Pahalgam, Jammu and Kashmir on 22nd April 2025, for which it twice claimed responsibility. India has consistently emphasized the need for global cooperation in the fight against terrorism and dismantling of terror infrastructure. Bureau Report, DD India.
The European Union on Friday approved a new round of sanctions against Russia, featuring a reduced oil price cap, a ban on transactions involving the Nord Stream gas pipelines, and fresh measures targeting shadow fleet vessels, helping Moscow bypass restrictions. The 18th round of economic punishment has been approved after Slovakia dropped a weeks-long block following talks with Brussels over broader plans to gradually cut down on Russian gas imports. The EU says the new measures are aimed at tightening enforcement, closing loopholes, and further weakening Russia's ability to sustain its war against Ukraine.
So the only way to put an end to this war, to get the parties back to the negotiating table and to create the conditions for a just and lasting peace in Europe, is to fundamentally increase the pressure on Russia, both militarily by continuing to deliver arms to Ukraine, which is courageously defending itself, and economically through sanctions. And this 18th package of sanctions is a major step forward.
Kremlin has reacted to this new package of EU sanctions imposed on Moscow over its conflict in Ukraine. The Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov said that Russia has built up a certain immunity to Western sanctions and adapted to them, The European Union agreed on the 18th package of sanctions against Russia on Friday, including measures aimed at dealing with the Russian oil industry and energy industry. And Peskov called the sanctions illegal, saying that every new restriction created negative consequences for those countries that backed them.
We have reportedly said that we consider such unilateral restrictions illegal. We oppose them. But at the same time, of course, we have already acquired a certain immunity from the sanctions. We have adapted to life under sanctions. Of course, we need to analyze the new package in order to minimize its consequences. But in addition, each new package adds a negative effect for the countries that join it. This is double-edged sword.
The Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky hailed the EU's new round of sanctions on Russia on Friday. On the social media post, he said that the decision is essential and timely, especially now as a response to the fact that Russia has intensified the brutality of its strikes on our cities and villages, unquote. The European Union agreed on the 18th package of sanctions against Russia, measures aimed at dealing further blows to the Russian oil and energy industry. Protesters across the United States have once again taken to the streets of New York. They are voicing their dissatisfaction with the Trump administration and its policies. As the Good Trouble Lives On protest took over the 50 states, protesters in New York were seen blocking the intersection near the Immigration Customs Enforcement building. Major protests speaking out against Trump's health care cuts, immigration policies, and other decisions erupted in Atlanta, Georgia, St. Louis, Missouri, Oakland, California, and Annapolis, Maryland. In a major fiscal overhauling in the United States, the Republican-controlled House of Representatives has passed President Donald Trump's US $9 billion funding cut package. The decision was taken early Friday with a narrow 216 to 213 vote. The funding cut, it targets public media and foreign aid, though the Senate excluded about US $400 million in funds for the global HIV/AIDS program from the cuts. The Republicans defend the move, claiming that the foreign aid supported wasteful programs. The bill now heads to the White House for Trump's signature. The U.S. House of Representatives on Thursday passed a bill to create a regulatory framework for U.S. dollar-pegged cryptocurrency tokens known as stable coins, sending the bill to the President Trump. Now, two other bills passed by the House, known as the CBDC Anti-Surveillance State Act and the Clarity Act, will also go to the Senate, where their ultimate fates are still unknown. House lawmakers also passed a bill developing a regulatory framework for crypto that will move on to the Senate for consideration. The stablecoin bill, it's dubbed the Genius Act, and it received bipartisan support, with many Democrats joining Republicans to back the proposed federal rules. The vote on the market structure bill, known as Clarity Act, was also notably bipartisan. And if signed into law, the bill would require tokens to be backed by liquid assets such as US dollars and also short-term treasury bills, and for issuers to publicly disclose the composition of their reserves on a monthly basis. An update on Syria now, and Israel said that it will allow limited access by Syrian forces into the Shweda area of the southern Syria for the next 2 days because of instability in the area. Meanwhile, Syria's Interior Ministry spokesperson said on Friday that government forces were not preparing to deploy Shwedo province, and Noiruddin al-Baba denied a Reuters report, citing an Interior Ministry media officer as saying security forces were preparing to deploy to Druze majority Shweda city, and this is to quell fighting involving the Bedouin tribes and the Druze tribes, a part of a religious minority group in Syria. Now, the fragile truce was holding in Syria's south on Friday after a ceasefire announced on Wednesday briefly ended days of fighting that began when Bedouin and Druze fighters clashed in Sweda province in southern Syria, prompting the Syrian government to send in troops. Hundreds of Druze were also seen crossing the border into Israeli-occupied Golan Heights, despite efforts by the Israeli military to stop the stream of men heading by foot and by cars into Syria. Members of the Druze community appealed for the protection of their families in the neighboring country, while others breached the border and crossed into Syria on Wednesday. Members of the community who gathered earlier in the Druze town of Majdal Shams pleaded for the safety of their community in Syria. While most Druze in Israel identify as Israeli citizens, more than 20,000 living in the occupied Golan Heights still identify as Syrians and have close ties to family on the other side of the border. Top European diplomats have told their Iranian counterparts on Thursday that they were determined to reactivate UN sanctions if Tehran does not make progress on a nuclear deal. So the diplomats from Britain, France, Germany and the European Union told Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi of their determination to use the snapback mechanism, and they warn also of reimposing all international sanctions against Iran in the absence of concrete progress towards a deal on Tehran's nuclear program by the end of the summer. European diplomats are seeking progress by the end of August, as the agreement is due to expire in October. Earlier on Monday, an advisor to Iran's Supreme Leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, said there would be no new nuclear talks with the United States if they were conditioned on Tehran abandoning its uranium enrichment activities. The Iranian Foreign Minister, Abbas Araghchi, told his European counterparts on Friday that they have no grounds for reactivating the UN sanctions after they threaten to do so in coming months unless there is progress in nuclear talks. Taking to social media platform X, the Iranian Foreign Minister said that if the EU E3 want to have a role, they should act responsibly and put aside the worn-out policies of threat and pressure, including the snapback, for which they lack absolutely no moral or legal grounds. Now, the Iranian Foreign Minister further stated that it was the US that withdrew from the two-year negotiated deal coordinated by EU in 2015 and not Iran. Any new round of talks is only possible when the other side is ready for a fair, balanced and mutually beneficial nuclear deal. Germany and the UK have signed a historic treaty, the first since the World War II and since Brexit also, when the UK pulled out of the EU. The treaty sets the stage for further cooperation on defense, immigration and economic issues. Here with the details is Deutsche Welle correspondent Emily Leschner, who's reporting from Berlin. Emily, what's this agreement about?
A lot of what's in the treaty aims to strengthen defense and security for both countries, as well as to ensure military readiness. So, for example, Germany and the UK are now vowing to work together to secure international orders for defense equipment that they co-produce. This includes a type of fighter jet, as well as an armored vehicle. A German defense tech company is going to open a factory in the UK where it's promising 100 jobs. And that's just one of 230 million euros worth of commercial investments in Germany investments Germany is promising the UK. There's also a plan for a business/government forum, which the countries hope will foster investment. The agreement also pledges a new direct rail connection between the UK and Germany. This is in hopes that it will help deepen economic and cultural ties. Now, for viewers that may have gotten excited already at that prospect, I should warn that the treaty doesn't lay down the tracks for a new line per se, but it does remove barriers that have made establishing this direct line difficult. Germany also says it's going to help the UK deter undocumented migrants from entering. One of the ways it intends to do this is to make it illegal in Germany to be involved in facilitating illegal immigration operations. There are also plans for increased cultural and social exchange. So, for example, schools might not have to get visas for student groups coming over for a trip. and frequent travelers between the two countries might be able to pass freely between the two countries as early as next month. So it encompasses defense, immigration, economic, and social exchange.
Well, Emily, what happens next?
Well, this treaty at the moment is more of an outline. It's an agreement to work together on the proposed projects. The real work starts now. Europe is keen to shore up its defense for the reasons I mentioned. So I imagine we'll see pledges related to European security start to take more concrete shape soon. And some of the other soft power initiatives might come a little bit later.
Emily Leshner, thanks very much. Still to come here on DD India Live. IICT campus inaugurated in Mumbai to power India's creative tech economy. India's Arjun Erigaisi storms into the semi-finals of the Las Vegas Chess Grand Slam. Geopolitics and trade deals. Economic challenges amid development. Hard work and the path to prosperity. It's the economy, always. Between walkers, money is what money does and says. Supply creates its own demand. Between the bulls pulls and bears tears. When supply chains globalization and India rises to the podium. We'll get you centered with the economic brief at 8 p.m. every Thursday on DD India. You're watching DD India Live. I'm Mark Lin. Prime Minister Narendra Modi visited Bihar's Motihari district and he inaugurated and laid the foundation stone for multiple development projects worth over 7,200 crore rupees, catering to rail, road, rural development, fisheries, electronics and information technology sectors. These include new trains, doubling and electrification of rail lines, road expansions, software technology parks, housing assistance to thousands of beneficiaries, and support for self-help groups, all aimed at building a Viksit Bharat as part of a Viksit Bharat. A Viksit Bihar, in fact, as part of a Viksit Bharat. Prime Minister Modi also released 400 crore rupees to around 61,500 self-help groups in Bihar under the Deen Dayal Antodaya Yojana, that's the National Rural Livelihoods Mission. With a special focus on women-led development, over 10 crore women have been connected to self-help groups. Prime Minister also handed over the keys to some beneficiaries as part of the Griha Pravesh, a national housing scheme. He did so to 12,000 beneficiaries. In addition, he released over 160 crore rupees to 40,000 beneficiaries of the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana Gramin, which is a rural residential scheme. Prime Minister Modi also visited Durgapur, which is in West Bengal, where he laid the foundation stone. He inaugurated and dedicated several key development projects across the oil and gas, power, road and rail sectors. Among major announcements, the PM launched the 1,950 crore rupees city gas distribution project for Bankura and Purulia districts under BPCL and dedicated the 132-kilometer Durgapur to Kolkata stretch of the Durgapur-Haldia natural gas pipeline. PM Modi also dedicated pollution control upgrades worth over 1,457 crore rupees at Durgapur and Raghunathpur thermal power stations of Damodar Valley Corporation. In rail infrastructure, the doubling of the 36-kilometer Purulia-Kotshila line, costing over 390 crore rupees, was also inaugurated. Additionally, 2 road overbridges built under the Setu Bharatam scheme were launched, valued at over 380 crore rupees. Prime Minister Modi also held a roadshow in Durgapur, where thousands of enthusiastic supporters lined the streets, waving flags and chanting slogans. The Prime Minister received a rousing welcome as people gathered in large numbers to greet him, creating a festive atmosphere throughout the route. In a landmark achievement under India's push for Atmanirbhar Bharat, the Indian Navy today commissioned its first indigenously designed and built diving support vessel INS Nistar at Visakhapatnam. Equipped with cutting-edge deep-sea diving systems, Nistar strengthens India's operational capability and stands ready to rescue personnel from distressed submarines. INS Nistar's primary roles include conducting deep-sea diving operations and rescuing personnel from distressed submarines. To support these specialized missions, INS Nistar features advanced saturation diving systems and a dedicated diving complex spanning multiple decks. After grand success of the maiden edition of the World Audiovisual and Entertainment Summit, or WAVES, in Mumbai, India has unveiled the outcome report of the summit, and the Union Minister for Information Broadcasting, Ashwini Vaishnav, he released this report saying that the summit witnessed an overwhelming response from exhibitors, industry leaders, startups, policymakers, academia, as well as the general public. Now, this summit emerged as a key convergence point for the media and entertainment ecosystem, drawing participation from every segment of the industry. The minister also inaugurated new campus for the Indian Institute of Creative Technology, IICT. It's envisioned as a world-class talent hub. This is for India's creative economy. The institute is launching 18 specialized courses spanning gaming, post-production animation, comics, and XR, all designed in close collaboration with industry leaders.
माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी का एक संकल्प है कि आईआईटी और आईआईएम के सिस्टम की तर्ज पर क्रिएटिव टेक्नोलॉजीज का एक नया इंस्टीट्यूशंस की सीरीज बने, IICT, इंडियन इंस्टीट्यूट ऑफ क्रिएटिव टेक्नोलॉजीज। टेक्नोलॉजी आज की क्रिएटिव वर्ल्ड में जिस तरह से एक इंटीग्रल पार्ट बन चुकी है, उसमें बहुत ज़रूरी है कि हमारे क्रिएटिव इकोनॉमी में काम करने वाले जितने भी लोग हैं और जो इससे जुड़ना चाहते हैं, उन सबको हम नए स्किल्स दें, टेक्नोलॉजीज़ में ट्रेनिंग दें, नए टूल्स दें, और दुनिया में जो बेस्ट हो रहा है उसको हम अपने यहाँ पर भारत में लेके आए और यहाँ से नए इंक्यूबेशन, नए आइडियाज़, नई टेक्नोलॉजीज़ भी भारत से बने। उसी भावना के साथ, उसी उद्देश्य के साथ IICT की कल्पना की गई।
Well, the minister also inaugurated the Bharat Pavilion at the Gulshan Mahal, which is in NFDC campus. Okay, DD India correspondent Shishir Shelar, he caught up with Mujal Shroff, who's the co-founder of IICT. He's got an insight now into the institute and the professional courses there. Let's listen to what he said.
Indian Institute of Creative Technology is one of its kind of institute in India which will boost the creative segment in India. Right now we have with us Munjal Shroff sir, who is one of the founder of IICT. Sir, first of all, talking about the IICT, it's the first institute in the country for the creative technology that we have seen here. And what the government is saying that it's as par like IITs we have seen. But what it has to offer basically to the students, to the youth also, and to the industry as well.
Yeah. I think the first thing that I would like to say is that IICT in its formation and its envisioning is truly a global institution, but a very unique global institution. I think in the first phase, the more visible part of IICT is obviously going to be the educational aspect. But there are 4 aspects to IICT. One is obviously education and skilling. The second aspect is policy, where IICT, because of its unique formation of a partnership between government and industry, it's also going to work on the requirements of what kind of policy reforms that need to be brought in to further the interest of animation, visual effects, gaming, comics, XR sector. So that's the second aspect. The third aspect is research. I think if you look at all the technologies today, whether it's protocols, whether it's MP3 codec, MP4 codec, cameras, software, right? Everything today none of it is actually either being created in India or, has any linkages with India. Right, so I think in some way we wanted to change that, and I think bring in a way where IICT can be a place where interesting ideas germinate and hopefully eventually become globally accepted ideas. Whether it's on the software side, whether it's on the protocol side, basically tool side, or actually technology side, So both on the hardware and software aspects, we would want IICT to contribute on the research front, either by itself or partnering with other global institutions. And the fourth aspect is obviously startup and incubation. So when we are talking about research, it's not about no longer just being restricted to research. That research has to eventually culminate into products. It has to culminate into business.
Courses actually IICT is offering now, and what will be the focus of those courses?
So I think right now, today we've announced a slew of courses. So these are going to be on production management, on use of making comics, and how making comics using AI. We're also looking at courses on voice training, so on virtual production, on immersive. So there are, I think, right now, like I'm saying, we've made a small beginning. I think roughly about 17 courses have already been planned. But like as the minister mentioned today, that I think there's going to be a medley of offerings.
Well, India's Grandmaster Arjun Erigaisi has advanced into the semi-finals of the Freestyle Chess Grand Slam Las Vegas on Friday with a commanding win over Nodirbek Abdusattorov of Uzbekistan. The Indian Grandmaster had an easy outing in the quarterfinals, one would say, and he drew the first game against Abdusattorov before securing a comfortable win in the second with the white pieces. Now, in the semi-final, Erigaisi will take on Levin Aronian, who defeated Hikaru Nakamura in the tie breaks. That's all we have in this edition of DD India Live. Your thoughts on the news of the day, please send them to us. And for those of you on the go, get the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. It's available on Android and iOS. Scan the QR code and download it now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Mark Lin. Thank you very much for watching DD India Live. Namaskar.